All right, I've officially got 5 minutes after the hour. So in the interest of time, we'll go ahead and get started. Hello and welcome to our event, Breaking into Careers in Consulting with Accenture. Thank you so much for joining us. In this session, we're going to explore high impact careers in consulting and help you understand how to make the best impression on recruiters and hiring managers. My name is Chelsea Perry, and I'm one of the co-founders of Appcelerator. And I'm joined by my co-founder, Innocent Okechukwu. We're so thrilled to introduce you to our special guests for this night's event in just a moment here. But before we get started, on a quick housekeeping note, please use the Zoom chat feature throughout the discussion for your questions, and we'll reserve time throughout and at the end of the discussion to address those questions. So without further ado, we're proud to have Accenture as one of our inaugural impact sponsors. And today we're joined by Melissa Harper Davis, Accenture Strategy Campus Inclusion and Diversity Lead, Raisa Omar, Strategy and Consulting Manager at Accenture, and also a consulting coach for appcelerator, and Ijeoma Ijiogu, one of the illustrious members of our appcelerator 2020 cohort and also a technology consultant at Accenture. In collaboration with Accenture, Appcelerator will introduce more underrepresented talent in health, business, and technology to careers in consulting. Appcelerator students and job seekers will have the opportunity to be mentored by Accenture consultants and managers. You'll be able to attend curated events and case interview prep workshops, and also be considered for positions at Accenture upon completion of your time in Appcelerator. So before we welcome our panelists to the stage, we'd like to give you a brief overview of the work that we do in Appcelerator and why it's so important. So I'll pass the mic over to my co-founder, Inno, to share more about Appcelerator. Oh, did we lose Inno by chance? We lost Inno. Okay, no worries. I'll take this and just to keep us moving. So if you're not familiar with Appcelerator, we are a diversity talent development program, and our entire mission is to help underrepresented and marginalized groups break into careers, into top professions, and ultimately dream companies. We do so by connecting you to insiders in the roles that you're interested in or interested in applying to. And we do that at the intersection of technology, but also people and relationships. We are a mission-driven organization. And like I mentioned, our mission is to increase representation in top companies and institutions and connect you to Black and Brown individuals and professionals that are at these companies to help you understand what it's like to work there, what it's like to interview, for candidacy for some of these roles. Ultimately, what's it like to thrive in a lot of these organizations that are looking to hire you? So on the screen, you can see just a number of institutions where many of our Appcelerator alumni hail from, and also the incredible organizations that they end up going to post-graduation or after pivoting from a previous position. We are all about the user experience at Appcelerator. And so over the past several years, we've been working to curate a number of ways to engage with us and also our mentors and alumni, as well as our partner companies. And so if you end up checking out our website, you'll get very familiar with our job search platform, wherein you're able to create a personalized profile to be recognizable to some of our partner companies, such as Accenture. You also have the opportunity to join live events and workshops, such as this one, to network with diverse individuals and organizations like Raisa, Melissa, and EJ, join coffee chats with them, get under the hood a bit and learn a little bit more about their organizations and their focus on diversity, equity, and inclusion. You'll get matched to one-on-one mentors and have unlimited opportunities to work with those mentors on virtual skill building and other things that you're going to need to be competitive in your job search process. So we'll touch on some of this today in our event with Accenture, but I know a lot of you all came to hear from Melissa specifically, so I won't delay that at all. Melissa, please join us and feel free to share more about Accenture.
Thanks so much, Chelsea. Just really happy to be here this evening and happy to meet all of you virtually. Um, Going to go into some detail around Accenture and the work that we do. I'm going to share my screen with you guys. Just give me one moment so I can make sure you see. Everyone can see okay? Thumbs up? Okay. So yeah, so just a little bit about me. I do sit in Atlanta. I lead our campus efforts in terms of strategy specifically. So I do I do all of our conferences and partnerships on the entry level and MBA side. So I've been at Accenture now almost 8 years. Can't believe it's been that long. But the things that I really enjoy about Accenture really is the autonomy. I get to really plan my day, the flexibility of the role, and I get to work with so many different people across the firm. So those are some things that I really, what has kept me here all this time. So who are we? Who is Accenture? You guys may have heard of us. We used to have signs in the airport. I don't even know if those are there. I haven't traveled in so long, but we used to have signs in the airport. But essentially, we are a professional services firm. So we're aligned very similarly to like an EY, Deloitte, McKinsey. We all are here to really help serve the clients and solve the clients' biggest problems. So that's essentially what we do. We work with over 40 industries, and now we're actually over 710,000 people that work at Accenture. When I joined, I think we were at 350,000. So that just shows a tremendous growth that we've had just in the last few years. And so we're just really proud of the fact that we are a global firm and that we are able to really create change and add value to our clients. So this is our purpose: to deliver on the promise of technology and human ingenuity. So basically, it's like technology is really at the core of everything that we do. And we really want to be mindful, regardless of what industry you work in, that we're utilizing the most recent and up-to-date technology and really trying to solve those problems that we all see in the world. So we're really on the cutting edge of everything that's happening, all the news and things like that. We are working with all of those clients, all of those companies that you guys are familiar with. And so these are just our 4 business groups. So right before COVID hit, we moved to this model where we're strategy and consulting as one group. Then we have interactive, and now that's actually called Song. You may have seen it in the news, but now interactive is Song. And then we have technology and operations. And so each of these groups functions, separately. Like EJ sits in technology, Raisa and I sit in strategy and consulting. So that's kind of how the company is broken up into those 4 groups. But across those 4 groups, all of the industries run parallel. So essentially, you could work in technology, but also be doing healthcare type of work, and then also do healthcare within management consulting. So this just gives you an overview of kind of what those functions are underneath those groups. And I will be sharing this material with you, so I'm not going to drain the slides today, but I will share this with the team afterwards. And so these are our 5 main industry groups, and under each of those are other industries within that. So we have these 5, and then like I said, someone could work within health, someone could work in public service and be doing more nonprofit type of work, someone could work in M&A, someone else could work in retail. So we have people that work across all of these industries, and coming in as a consultant or analyst into the firm, you have an opportunity a lot of times to work across the variety of industries initially, and we can talk a little more about that as well. So this is kind of an overview of our business. As I said, we have over 710,000 people. Something that I think is really significant is that a lot of our clients have been diamond clients, which means that we book over a certain amount of money with them, usually 10 million or more. And we've had pretty much the same diamond clients for many, many years. And we do work with 75% of the Fortune Global 500. So any company you've ever heard of, we probably are currently working with them or have worked with them at some point in the past. So something to note, 700,000 people seems like, so many people, like you be a small fish in a big pond. However, within North America, there's only about 55,000 of us within North America, so it feels much smaller. We have our resource groups, which I'm a member of African American Resource Group and the Women's Resource Group. There's an interfaith group. We have Hispanic American. We have the Asian American. So we have many, many employee resource groups that help you feel more connected. And then we operate in market units. So we would say, oh, do you sit in the South market unit? That's kind of how we're structured as a company. And that's how we kind of function in terms of like who's staffed where. And so this is just kind of a look at where most of our innovation hubs are, the market units, et cetera. And so in terms of our culture, I just wanted to touch a little bit on our inclusion and diversity at a glance. Now, inclusion comes first, and that's intentional. A lot of companies, you'll hear diversity and inclusion or diversity, equity, and inclusion or DEIB. So for us, inclusion comes first. And I think that's really, critical that we make sure people feel included before we kind of address the diversity. I think there's a lot of intersectionality between who somebody is. They're not just a woman. They may be a single mother. They may have, they may be of mixed race. They may also identify as LGBTQ+. So we have all of these things. So it's really important to us that we're committed to having diversity at the firm and in a variety of areas. So that's among the disabled, that's among pride, gender. So we have committed to meet a certain level by 2025. So with gender, we want to be at gender parity by 2025. So we are working on that. So this just kind of shows you what, some of the things that we've been doing across the firm in those areas. And then this slide, when George Floyd was murdered back in 2020, we really took a stand against racism, and the company did publish certain things about these are the things that we are committed to do. And I think it was just really important that all companies were making sure that they were really increasing the diversity within their firms, because I think it's always something we talk about, like everyone wants more diversity, but what does that mean? And how can we be practical about really applying that, especially within like our recruiting staffing model? So this is very specific to say we're going to increase our Black African American hiring from 9 to 12%, and then Hispanic and Latinx from 9.5 to 13. And so we are working towards those goals now, because we can't wait and then in 2025 say this is where we want to be. We're working on it on a continuous basis to make sure that we are meeting that. And then we're also investing in the community. So we've done things with the Jobs Council and things with the Black Founders Development Program. Another thing I want to note is that we also have an apprentice program, which is really, really strong. We're at probably 2,000 apprentices, and those individuals do not have a college degree. We used to require a bachelor's degree to come into Accenture, and now we have the apprentice program because a lot of people weren't able to attend college, but they have amazing skills and they're qualified. So we have brought a lot of people in through the apprentice program, my daughter being one of them. So my daughter's been in Accenture for almost 2 years. My son did graduate from Georgia State, and he joined Accenture this summer as an analyst. So it's just, for me, I get to see both sides of it. So she came in as a non-degree person, and she's already excelling. And then he came in with his degree and is loving it as well. So I just think it shows all of the many ways that you can kind of enter the firm. And it doesn't, not everyone's going to come in the same way, and not everybody looks the same way, but they are really trying to increase and make sure that we have those differences and we embrace those differences. And so these things are just about like, why would you want to work at Accenture? And so these are just a few of the things we highlight. Like, we are committed, like I said, to a culture of equality. Our people, so our people are everything to us because we don't sell anything. We're presenting our people to the client. The client is saying, okay, this team is going to help me shape my business. So we have to have the best people in order to be effective at what we're doing. We have a lot of mentoring and networking, a lot of professional development, and we're really on the cutting edge, like I said, of all of the technologies. We're really being innovative every day. And we have a commitment to the community. So from a corporate citizenship perspective, we are always trying to make sure that we're donating to the things that are important to us and to our employees. And we're always having days of service and things that you can be involved in to make sure you're making an impact in your community and beyond. And so I just wanted to give a highlight of like our analyst development program, because this is kind of our entry level. So anyone that has a bachelor's degree or is getting a bachelor's degree, they would come into one of our analyst development programs. And these programs are really great because it gives you a way of learning about consulting in a more structured environment. So you're coming in with a cohort, you have a lot of trainings, you're being staffed on different projects, you're learning about how to really be an effective team member. And these programs are typically about 2 years or so. And then by the time you make consulting, you're specializing in a specific area. And this is just one of many things that we have to offer at Accenture, but I just wanted to at least give you guys a view and a little peek into what we do. And I'll make sure to share more information with the team so that if anyone has specific questions about my team and who I'm recruiting for, we can definitely go into that. But I wanted to make sure I introduce EJ and Raisa. They're going to be helping answer some questions that you guys may have around like who makes a good consultant? What is your day like? And so just wanted to introduce them. And I hired Raisa years ago, which is really cool. Probably 2016? I always forget the year, 2017?
17, yeah.
So yeah, so that's how connected that we can be and stay. And then EJ's been a really great addition to Accenture through Appcelerator. She was our first Appcelerator hire. And so I'm just really proud that we are able to really move the needle in significant ways, just by these relationships that we have with Appcelerator and with other programs and partnerships. So I'm just really glad you guys are here to really get to see like, this is how this works, us connecting with you. And then we're able to really present you to our company to say, hey, this is a great hire. And so we've done that multiple times already. So I'm just really proud of the work that we've already done. And so I think I'm close to time, but I'm gonna stop sharing and let Chelsea kind of lead the next set of questions.
Thanks so much, Melissa. So before we hop into a moderated panel, I wanted to invite Raisa and EJ to quickly introduce themselves before we follow up with questions. And for the attendees on the line, please submit additional questions that you have via the Q&A box. We're going to be monitoring that. And if you have a better question than we do, we'll pull your question and scrap one of ours. So Raisa, we'll start with you. Could you please just talk or speak briefly to your role at Accenture, your office location and practice area, the number of years you work for Accenture, and the types of work and projects you typically work on, and then we'll have EJ give that similar introduction.
Yeah, absolutely. Hello, everyone. I'm Raisa Omar. I am a strategy and consulting manager at Accenture. I'm based out of New York, and I originally joined Accenture, like Melissa mentioned, in grad school. So I was a graduate intern, really loved the experience, and then came back. Can't believe yet, it's been 4.5 years so far. And in terms of the projects I work on, I'm, originally I think I was hired within our health and public sector division, and then I ended up being on a lot of supply chain projects. So I built, functionality within supply chain. So I think when we reorged, I think maybe 2.5 years ago, now I'm functionally aligned, and I work on large scale supply chain transformations across all the industries actually, which is kind of cool. So although I primarily live in the healthcare space, I do get to visit other industries, which is pretty neat. And nice to meet all of you.
That's awesome. Thanks, Raisa. And same intro for you, EJ, your role at Accenture, your office, location, and practice area, number of years working, and then the types of projects you typically work on.
Thanks, Chelsea. Happy to be here with you all. Again, my name is Ijoma Jogu. You're all welcome to call me EJ. I've just completed my first year at Accenture, so super excited to hit that milestone. I can't believe that much time has passed. I sit within the life sciences practice, specifically within R&D, so research and development. And currently, as a technology consultant, my area of specialization is systems implementation and just advising clients on how our Accenture technology assets, again, within the life sciences or pharma space, can benefit their business and add value. And I'm based in New York City. New York City born and bred, and happy to be working out of the 1 Manhattan West office.
That's awesome. Thanks so much for those introductions, ladies. So let's hop into a couple of questions. I'll pose this to both of you all, but curious to learn more, and I'm sure our audience is too, about your introduction to consulting as a career, whether that be through your graduate programs or undergraduate programs, or even just pivoting after you had started your career elsewhere. So either of you could start us off there, but talk to us a little bit more about your intro to consulting and ultimately why did you choose Accenture?
Yeah, I could start. So I got introduced to Accenture, I guess more broadly consulting, when I was in grad school, and I was getting my master's in public health, and the tracks that were sort of traditional were, healthcare administration or, policy tracks, and consulting was, definitely another track, but it was a lot more smaller. And I remember, going to some of the office hours, et cetera, and just learning about, the type of work that consultants do, and more specifically Accenture. And I think I was really drawn to, the type of work that consultants do in terms of, problem solving and bringing sort of the best in class to clients. I'm kind of think of myself as a very innovative person, and I really like solving, problems, et cetera. So it seems like a natural fit. And then more specific Accenture, I think it was more just like a cultural fit. Everyone from Melissa to, past interns, et cetera. So, I think represented like a global cultural base and really bright, smart people, super welcoming. So it was really a no-brainer after that, but I'm really glad that, I got that introduction in grad school. And like I said, I'm still here, so I'll let you, EJ, go next.
Oh, that's awesome. And I completely share the same sentiment on the culture, Raisa. I came to Accenture, or came to consulting from industry. So after undergrad, I worked in clinical operations for a healthcare or an academic medical center, and did a small semi-POC project that dealt with a technology platform, and that piqued my interest into the intersection of technology and healthcare. I then went on to work for a healthcare tech startup, as a kind of a VA liaison between the technical engineering team and the clinical team, the team that was providing the care through the virtual platform. After I got my master in biomedical science, I actually had a friend kind of just talk to me briefly about appcelerator. And because of appcelerator, I could visualize myself in a consulting career. I didn't really know what consulting was, and undergrad, a lot of friends went straight from college to consulting, and I just thought, okay, those are the kids that work the fancy jobs and do all the fancy things, but I didn't really know what it was. But I kind of boiled it down, and through the Accelerator program and through our training, I boiled it down to being consulting to being a field where you just have to be an effective communicator, knowledgeable about your subject area, and a personable person, right? What we're all doing is solving problems each day, regardless of the industry that we're in, and we're solving problems with other people while using technology, right? Like Melissa said, we're leveraging technology to create better outcomes. And in my case, to create better health outcomes, to bring medicines and discoveries to patients faster. Why I chose Accenture, big plug, and it's certainly due to the help and connection of Appcelerator, but certainly due to just the culture. I was able to talk to a variety of Accenture people before I even received an offer, and these people did not interview me. So it was just by virtue of telling someone that I was interviewing at Accenture, and someone would drop a name and say, talk to this person, they'd be happy to tell you more. And I'd reach out to that person, and that person would give me the name of another person. And I felt really comfortable speaking to these people and being able to identify with them and their experiences, both professionally and personally. So that was what gave me the confidence to choose to start my consulting career at Accenture.
That's awesome. I'm tearing up back here. Can't remember if I'm spotlighting myself or not, but it's probably best that I'm not. Did not pay you all to say any of that. And so proud of you, EJ. So I want to pose this next question to Raisa. Raisa, could you demystify the typical in quotes, consulting workday? How have you learned to prioritize your time and ensure that you're meeting the key objectives that you have for the week, but also like maintaining work-life integration or balance?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I mean, I think like you mentioned, it really varies day to day, but really I think what anchors you is whatever project you're on at that given time, and the objective of that project. And a project could be as small as like a 6-week assessment where it's going to be really quick, and then, or it could be multi-year transformation where you're helping a client really go from point A to point B. So a lot of times what anchors me at least is what we have, a statement of work typically when we start a new project, which kind of outlines all the deliverables as well as the timeline. So a lot of times our teams will anchor that specific timeline, and then we do have daily or weekly syncs with our project team where we're looking at where we are versus the timeline, and then prioritizing the tasks that need to get completed so that we're meeting our deliverables in a time efficient way. So a lot of times that's sort of what anchors us. And then a typical day could look anything from having client meetings to understand a particular process more, to running workshops where you're bringing various different folks within organizations who usually don't talk to each other to align a new vision for a new organization, for example, or doing an actual implementation where you're hardwiring whatever technology that we're implementing for them to maybe working with developers. So it really depends on a day to day. And like I mentioned, really what anchors us a lot of times is the scope, the timeline, and the deliverables. And then we just work backwards to get that done.
That's awesome, incredible and transformative work. And I imagined maybe slight learning curve for you and others in similar roles upon entry to the firm. So I want to pose this question to EJ, but could you talk a little bit more about that transition from your old life to your new life in consulting, and how Accenture supported you throughout that transition?
Certainly. Yeah, I love how you frame that, my old life. And, they've kind of merged into one new nebulous life. So I came from, again, healthcare clinical operations, and I worked on the ground with providers, sometimes directly with patients, in order to, help bring us to the goal, whatever the goal was, right? Continue to extend the continuum of care for these patients, to help improve a technology platform, to improve workplace operations, whatever the case was. I was kind of that middle person in between. I think the biggest difference between what I did previous to Accenture and what I do now is that I'm working more on a higher level, right? The impact is a bit larger when you're working on the corporate level, and you're not necessarily impacting one group of patients or one group of providers, and using, again, technology to do the work that I do. So I actually work with a team. Most of my team is based out in India. Those are the technical experts. They are the people that are the brains that build out our platforms, and they help us to, keep them updated and maintain, so that we can go to clients and show them our platforms with confidence, saying that, hey, we can integrate this technology into your existing ecosystem, or we can phase out an old ecosystem and build out a new one with our support. For me, there was a huge learning curve with learning a lot of technical jargon. So I'm very used to the medical and clinical jargon, especially having my master in biomedical sciences. I'm super in tune with the pathology, but now I was having to keep the pathology and science to the side and say, okay, we're using this new technology so that we can leverage and increase, right, the increased patient health outcomes on the biology side. So a bit of the marrying of two worlds, but certainly a huge learning curve in kind of speaking a technical jargon, getting up to speed. But again, because Accenture is a place that is super people-centric, I didn't have much of any problem reaching out to folks to say, hey, I'm new and I need some help. A lot of people are very, very happy to tell you everything that they know, to tell you how they've got to this point in their journey. So one of the big lessons I've learned in being new is just asking for help and not being afraid to do that, because once you do that, the rest is smooth sailing.
That's excellent. And it sounds like the qualities of a great leader. And so turning us in a kind of different direction, Risa, I'm curious to learn a little bit more about how your leadership style has changed since growing from your intern to consultant to manager role, and how has Accenture supported you in your growth and development as a leader within the organization?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so I obviously came as an intern, at zero immediate, folks that I was managing, and there's, you're a sponge, you have all these leaders that you're working with, and obviously everyone has a very different style. And then after grad school, I came in as a consultant, and there, the first couple of projects, obviously, I think I was on the lowest of the totem pole. I didn't have any immediate folks I was in charge of, but as I grew within my as a consultant, and then ultimately got promoted to manager, now I have council leads, and I manage people on a day-to-day. And in terms of how I've really just tried to be a sponge prior to that point, just kind of observing the different manager styles and what works, what doesn't. And ultimately, I think what I learned works best, which is really consistent with the Accenture way, is just being truly human and like breaking down hierarchies and really just trying to foster a team environment that's one team, so that everyone feels empowered to kind of share their thoughts. Because I think we learn from everyone, right? So I think a lot of times giving new consultants or analysts the opportunity to kind of speak up and kind of like try and fail, and then just using that as learning opportunities. I think that is what works best. And then obviously, I think I'm still working on my leadership skills every day, but I think that has been the most successful, is just breaking down hierarchies and just creating a one team mindset, and being as inclusive as possible, and being also open to criticism too. Oh, sorry, I think I accidentally hit mute. Yeah, being open to just like the 360 feedback, because I think a lot of times you learn just as much in terms of feedback from people you're managing as opposed to people who are managing you. And yeah, I think that's what has worked. And I think I have 2 council leads now, which is, at Accenture, that's you're assigned always I guess once you're a manager, you're assigned council leads. And then you always have a counselor, which is like a person that stays consistent with you throughout all your projects, because usually project to project, your leadership changes, but your counselor is a person that kind of stays consistent. It's your advocate. You go to them for, any feedback or any, advice, etc. So it's been really neat being in a role where I have council leads now, and I can kind of mentor the next generation of Accenture folks. So that's pretty cool.
That's fabulous. And it sounds like, some of the qualities I hear you talk about were leadership, of course, but also just like the willingness to continuously learn, get feedback, and be mentored, but also take risks. So talking a little bit more about like skills and experiences that make for a great teammate at Accenture, and I'll open this up to anyone to answer. What are the types of sort of skills and experiences that you're looking for as you make hiring decisions? And also, what are the types of backgrounds that typically find success at the firm?
So I will start with that. I think it depends on what level. So I would say at the entry level, so someone coming straight from getting their bachelor's degree is very different from someone who comes in at more of an experienced hire. I would say for entry level roles, we're looking for intellectual curiosity. I think it's really key that someone is like eager to learn and willing to learn and doesn't think they know everything already. So I think that's really important. I think someone that works well with ambiguity. Consulting is very ambiguous. You really don't know what's going to happen 5 minutes from now, an hour from now, next week. So you have to be someone that's comfortable without knowing the entire process start to finish, and being able to really manage yourself within that. And it could be someone just saying, hey, we need you to jump on a plane to go to this place. And you just are like terrified because maybe you've never had to do that, or you never booked travel or something like that. So we can kind of tell when people are out of their comfort zone. So I think being agile, which is a very consulting word, agile and flexible within like whatever you're asked to do. Because as EJ mentioned, someone's always there to really support you in helping you. Someone's done whatever they're asking you to do. So I think those are some really key skills at the entry level. And I think as an experienced hire, it really depends on the role, but a lot of times the hiring manager really just wants someone that has like enough experience in that space where they can ramp up really quickly, because a lot of people don't have a consulting background. So I think it's really important if you have industry experience to really understand that industry well enough to come in to consult for those type of clients. And so that could just be like showing a body of work or something that you've done, and maybe projects you worked on before or wherever you worked before. These are things that you've had to do. So really having an understanding of being able to speak to like your work product is really, really important.
Great. Thanks, Melissa. And you talked a lot about sort of the strengths of consultants and other professionals at the organization, but there's a really interesting question in the chat about sort of the weaknesses or pitfalls for potential candidates. So could you speak more to like what gets people into trouble in the interviewing or networking phase as they're learning about the firm and eventually heading into their first and second rounds of interviews?
Yeah, so I think it's important to really know what you want to do when you come into the interview, especially as someone that's coming in as an experienced hire, like you have at least 3 to 5 years of work experience. You're at a point in your career where you really know the work that you want to do and what you don't want to do. I think a lot of times people don't really research the company that they're interviewing for, specifically Accenture, because our biggest question is why Accenture? Like, why do you want to work here? And if you haven't spoken to people or haven't really researched or connected with people, you won't really know why you want to work here. You may say, I want to do consulting, but you have no idea what we really do or what differentiates us from anyone else. So I think that's probably one of the biggest mistakes that people make, is not really having a true understanding of what they want. They're like, oh, this is a job opportunity. There's a lot of job opportunities out there. The job market is still good. It's a matter of where do you want to be? Because you're interviewing us as much as we're interviewing you. And I think it's just important to really know yourself and what you want, because that's gonna, if you don't know, it's gonna be a red flag for us, because so many people are interested in what we do and want to work here. So we really want to find the people that feel like they are in the right place. So that's something that really has, that would be a weakness. I would say another thing is not really able to speak to what you've already done. So we may say, okay, walk me through your resume. And even though people have worked at places or their resume is very full, they really can't speak about their contribution to the places that they work. People may say, oh, well, my team did this or my team did that, but not really being able to speak on an individual level about what you specifically contributed, or even things that maybe you feel like you didn't do well, but that you were able to correct. So those are some of the things that we tend to see. And, you know, it's just important to really like practice, because I think with anyone, as many of us that have may have interviewed a lot, it's never too much. Like, you want to feel like you're not nervous. You want to be able to bring your authentic self, because I think that does come through. And so if you have to practice with a friend, practice with a family, just so that you feel comfortable kind of telling your story and sharing your story and being natural, and just really, because we want you to bring your full self to work, so that you want to be able to show that during the interview.
You made several great points, Melissa, and you alluded to this next question that I have for Risa and EJ, and that's around the preparation process. So could you speak a little bit more to sort of your individual journeys around like prepping for the interview rounds, specifically those cases, and what are any tips or tricks, recommendations that you have for our audience?
Yeah, so yeah, EJ, my experience has been a little bit different from yours. but I went through the campus recruiting process, and there, I mean, I think it's, you know, in terms of preparation is like, you know, attending as many, you know, office hours as possible, just to talk to as many Accenture employees as possible, back to what Melissa is saying, to just really learn what we do at Accenture, you know, what differentiates us, and then, you know, what pockets, you know, like ultimately, like why your story or like your career thus far, of how consulting is a natural next step, and just being able to like really practice that pitch. And then obviously, yeah, the case studies is another really big component of it. And there is just, you know, practice, practice, practice. I think we had a working group of, you know, a couple of different students, and, you know, we'd meet, you know, on a weekly basis to kind of go through the cases and, you know, just get as good as possible on those. But I think ultimately, I think the behaviorals were just as important, honestly, if not more important, because a lot of times you get really, you know, focused on the cases, and the cases, obviously, I think we just want to see how you think or how you'd approach a problem. But I think in terms of, you know, assessing if you're culturally a fit for Accenture, I think the behaviorals is really important in terms of, you know, being able to articulate your story, being able to like find, again, your actual contribution or to your, you know, in terms of your career so far, being able to say, you know, why you would be a good consultant, and being able to articulate, like, you know, what you bring to Accenture outside of your skill set, quote unquote. I think that was really important. So I think, you know, talking to as many folks as possible, you know, current Accenture employees, recruiters, et cetera, and then being able to brush up both on your case studies, as well as being able to just really comfortably answer the why and, you know, those key behavioral questions. I think that's ultimately what, you know, I end up focusing on and ends up working out.
Yeah, I'd love to echo Race's sentiments. I think the biggest thing, so I had a long string of behavioral interviews, so meeting with various MDs within the life science industry, and then also folks from HR. The biggest piece of my interviews that I felt was super salient, and I will give another plug that was unsolicited, but through the help and support of my appcelerator coach, Sana, she's the best. I still text her to this day. We were able to refine my story, my journey, and not only the journey of what I had done academically and professionally prior to consulting, but the impact of the work that I had done. I think a lot of folks forget that piece. They'll kind of give you the rundown of the resume, what they did, but that impact is super important, because I think it gives folks on the other side, the people that you're interviewing with, insight into the outcomes of your work. I think for the most part, we're all super nice, knowledgeable people, but we want to see that the work that we're doing is creating tangible and sustainable impact. And again, I had multiple evening, late night sessions and some morning edits to my story, to my resume, with the help of my accelerator coach. And again, you know, she coached me, we practiced together, but she also connected me to other people with whom I could talk with. And those discussions also kind of served as like mini practice points as well.
That's awesome. Thanks for sharing about your prep processes, Raisa and EJ. I know Melissa is working furiously to answer some of those questions in the chat. Melissa, let me know if you've already gotten to this one, but I saw one about you know, candidates that have more technical backgrounds, whether that's engineering or computer science specifically. Could you speak a little bit more to a couple of the apprenticeship programs or analyst consultant development programs, and how you've seen folks with technical backgrounds transition to careers in consulting?
Yes, so our entry level or analyst development programs are specifically for those students that are getting their bachelor's degree. Apprentice is for someone who doesn't have or doesn't plan on getting a 4-year degree. So if you're someone working towards a 4-year degree, you wouldn't apply for the apprentice program, you would apply for the analyst program. And so even if you have a technical background, that doesn't matter to us, because we accept any major. So typically someone who has maybe computer science or information technology background, they may go into our technology development program. And then someone else that may be more business or finance, they may go into consulting or strategy. So we understand that people come from different places and don't necessarily have we're not expecting people to have like tons of internships, you know, as a junior or senior in college. So I think a lot of it is the interview process and really understanding Accenture and, like I said, the work that we do and how you can add value to what we do and how you can really be an asset to one of our teams. So those are the biggest things. In strategy, we do case interviewing. So if you are interested in a strategy role, you will have a case interview, which is really like trying to break down a problem and figure out what that solution would be. So that's something that's really important. And I mean, there's case interviews all over the internet. So you can Google that just to get a framework of what that looks like. But otherwise, we do like a technology showcase. So it's really a different way of seeing how someone's mind works and giving them an opportunity to like, how would you present to a client? If you had a new product, what would that look like? So we do different interviews depending on what group that you're going into. But I think just, you know, preparing as much as you can and networking. I mean, the network is probably bigger than anything else that we've talked about, honestly, because people that are really good at networking, like, never look for a job. They just seamlessly move through from place to place, position to position, because they know the right people to connect with. And so I think that's the biggest message, is like making sure you're connected to the right people, the people who can help you get to where you want to be. And so even more so than like making sure your resume is great, like if no one ever sees it, then, you know, it doesn't really matter how great it is. Like, you want to make sure it gets seen and somebody's really giving you that feedback. So just make sure you're telling people what you're interested in and checking in with people. So that's my biggest advice. So the technical background won't hurt you.
Okay, thanks for clearing that up, Melissa, and agree with everything you said, especially that relationships piece. I don't think I've ever told you all this, but super impressed by like how you've been able to maintain relationship with Raisa over the year.
Yeah.
I love that you still text Anna. So I can't emphasize enough how important people are, especially the focus on people at Accenture. And that'll segue me into my last question before I give it back to Melissa and Inno to wrap us up. But the questions around community and how you found community within the organization and your colleagues at the organization. So Raisa, EJ, either of you can answer that. And then just actually bonus question on top of that, let us know what you do for fun, like outside of work.
All right. So yeah, I mean, I think I was fortunate enough to like do the internship at Accenture, because I think that really gave me a community of individuals like Melissa, the other interns, et cetera. And we, you know, went through this process together, and, you know, I'm still, you know, in contact with a lot of them. And then, you know, I guess in the traveling days, we really got to know our teams really well, because, you know, we would get team dinners or et cetera, or like, you know, do team fun days, et cetera. So that really kind of helped build relationships with people outside of work. And then now I think in the virtual world, a lot of times we'll still do like virtual happy hours or et cetera. But, you know, the New York office is great. Like, there are a lot of events. My last project was really good about, you know, just getting everyone together, you know, every couple of weeks to do like, you know, a fun city event. We did like a boat tour like 2 weeks ago. That was really cool. So yeah, I think it gets, even though, yeah, like I think it was 500,000 employees when I joined, so it's like 700,000, but yeah, even though there's 700,000 employees worldwide, it really gets really small once you kind of segue into like your practice and like your city. Yeah, it just becomes really small. Even like, you know, supply chain, for example, like I think the number of New York professionals is probably like less than 200, right? So even though it's a huge organization, it becomes really small. And I think the best way to stay connected is, you know, I think just, you know, attending as many events. Like, I know it's hard sometimes, like after a long work day, to like schlep over to a social event, but like, you know, just getting yourself off the couch after work and kind of going and seeing people face to face. I think that is like the best way to really keep those connections, and like doing things like this, like the +1s and kind of really gets you grounded in the community. And in terms of what I do for fun, that's a good one. I feel like I've been really bad at this, but usually when my life is not insane, I usually, like, I'm an amateur ceramics person, so I like to just on the weekends go and like take wheel throwing classes and make pottery and things like that. But I need to get back to that. So thanks for telling me to get back to it, Chelsea. But yeah, that's usually what I enjoy doing the most on my downtime.
I love that. I might have to join you in a ceramics class. That sounds like a lot of fun. I did welding in high school, and I have like my one little like artistic piece on a bookshelf. So
oh my God, let's
many artists in my own right. But unlike Raisa, I didn't have a cohort joining Accenture. So I heavily utilized our ERGs. Melissa spoke about those at the beginning. Probably 2 or 3 of the big ERGs that I really rely on for community and just networking purposes. And I want to demystify the word networking. I think networking can also be replaced with connecting or connection, right? You just want to go out and extend yourself, introduce yourself to folks, find points of connection and grow and nurture those points of connection. So my top 3 ERGs, although I'm on the email list for quite a few, are the African American AA ERG, the women's ERG. They have tons of book club events where we'll kind of meet up at bars, talk about the book, ping folks about the book, ping folks about their life, and just get to know one another. Then our interfaith ERG, that's a huge one. We have like weekly Bible study sessions and monthly prayer sessions, and just great people all around with various interests, but we kind of come and center around our faith in that employee resource group. The things or a thing that I do for fun, I'm a big creative. I used to dance classical ballet, although I'm not a dancer anymore, but I do love to patronize the arts. So love to see Broadway shows whenever I can. And I've also just finished a tour with Maverick City Music. So I try to sing whenever I can, however I can, whether it be with friends, their performing groups. And then I had a really cool opportunity to join the Maverick Gospel Choir. So I've just been singing with them. But yeah, that's what I do.
Got a celebrity on the line.
Wow, that's awesome.
That's really fabulous. Hard to follow. But I just wanted to give you a couple moments to close us out before we give it to Enno, and just tell us a little bit more about, one, how we can find you following this event, and any information you want to share about recruitment leading up to the busy season, September and October for you.
Yeah, so right now, I think I typed one of the answers that we're at the end of our fiscal year. Our fiscal year ends August 31st. So some things are on hold for us in terms of roles, but I will go ahead. I don't know if it'll let me share with everyone, but I can maybe send you guys the deck with my email, and then anyone that wants to contact me. I am out of office tomorrow, Monday, because I have too much PTO, which happens every single year. And we have to have only 200 hours by the end of the month, and I have like 230 something. So I always have too much PTO because I don't take time off. So I have to, but I'm happy to respond after that if anyone has questions. I know there were some questions we didn't get to, so maybe we can address those offline. But yeah, just feel free to reach out to me. I'll share that information with Enno and Chelsea, and please connect with them so I can connect you guys to the right people for those roles.
That's awesome. Thanks so much, Melissa. We'll be sure to share your information with everyone following this discussion, and I'll turn it over to Enno to close us out.
Hey, everybody. Thanks so much for joining this session. It's been a blast to get to hear from Melissa, AJ, and Raisa, and appreciate all your questions. So for next steps, if you are interested in getting involved further with Appcelerator, want to toss out one really huge mention of something that's coming up in the very near future. So we are launching our full platform very soon. And so to stay updated and receive updates about this launch, please sign up at appceleratorprep.com/beta. And there you can indicate if you're interested in finding a mentor, connecting with our partner companies or becoming a mentor yourself. So this is really a great opportunity for us to engage our community, including everyone that's been on this call today. So we look forward to seeing your submission there and staying in touch with you. When you do join Appcelerator, you're going to get a lot of great benefits, and I won't list them all here because we've gone through a few, but you'll obviously be able to connect with great jobs, great employers, partner companies, and beyond those partner companies with our insiders, with our insider network that you'll be tapped into. And then, of course, that one-on-one career coaching is going to be a great opportunity for anyone who is looking to pursue interviews and get prepared to really nail a new opportunity. All right, that's about all we got. Follow us on LinkedIn, follow us on Instagram. We are super excited to stay in contact with you. And then for just general information, please go to appceleratorprep.com. Thank you so much for attending, and see you all next time.